Hello, everyone, and good job on making it to part 3 of how to become a voice actor this year. Hopefully, you've been having some fun with it because I sure have. Last month, I had you practice voices from 16 different genres of voice acting, if you include the comments, and you should have been practicing them as often as possible. Anytime you heard a voiceover on TV, anytime you heard it on the radio or in a store, you should have been practicing the voices from everywhere, and you still should be. Be sure to get a phone or some other voice recording software or item to be able to record your voice so that you can play it back so you can hear how your voice actually sounds to listeners through speakers. And last time, I had you pick 2 genres to hone. This week, I want you to pick a third. If you picked 2 that were your favorites, then make the third a genre that your voice sounds strong in. You may be surprised to find out that many voice actors end up changing the genre they wish to do. In fact, there's many that find out that a genre that they didn't like is what their voice is actually best for. So don't write off genres that you are good at, because those could be the way to establish your career. You can always change it later if you want. And just so you know, I've updated the calendar with a little something extra this time. I noticed that it was a bit inconvenient to get to my video based off of the calendar alone, so I created a new version that has a QR code to my channel so you can scan it with your phone's camera and stay up to date with my videos quick and easy and on the go, in your room, in your wallet, or at work. The PNG files were the ones it worked best with, so all the PNG files are updated for every calendar in the folder now. And if you've already downloaded the calendar and don't wish to reprint the calendars, I also have a convenient solution for you, too. I have the individual QR codes displayed on sheets so you can download and print them out. Then you can cut them and tape them wherever you need to if you want to bring up a video fast. Just download the size that works best for you and print it off. I went and I tested them, and the small ones can be scanned up to about 13 feet, so it'll work in a 10-foot room if you zoom in. And the biggest one, which takes up to a full sheet of paper if you decide that you need it, can even be scanned from over 50 feet away in a room, so it could work in a garage or maybe even a warehouse, I guess, if you're in there. So you can find them in the download folder link, and I put them in the description below and also on my bio page so that you can get the updated calendars and QR codes in the folder. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer, because I was going through my video and audio and I realized there's a lot of content this time, so I'm going to break this video up into 2 parts so that way you can have all of the information and you can take it in 10-minute increments or whatever you have time for. Now, in regards to genres, there are actually 4 that are very risky to get into, but I did not list these last time because I didn't want you confused or focusing on these, but I wanted to get into them this time so that way you know what to avoid to keep your career safe. Now, this first one you probably already guessed, it's not safe for work content, meaning adult-only content or erotica or sensual stuff, if you catch my drift. Yeah, it probably came to mind, but just like Hollywood actors, it can be a huge blemish on a stunning career if you choose to take on this type of content. Be it in writing, animation, voiceover, or even interactive niches, companies will tend to avoid you if you are participating in these things. It's often for this reason that many actors create stage names or avatars to hide their activities. But lo and behold, there's always that one die-hard fan that is always willing to dredge up the past. And you can expect that to happen to you if you are not keeping these exceptionally safe and separate. Which, newsflash, most people can't do that. So, it's better just to avoid the entire industry altogether. Perhaps it'll work better for people who are hobbyists, but we're trying to get you into the professional line, where you can actually make tons of money. So, yeah. We're going to skip that one. The second one is a huge one, and it is called team picking. By picking a side, you automatically alienate the other. This isn't always possible to avoid in voiceover, and sometimes it's actually extremely beneficial. For instance, if you get a gig with, let's say, Pepsi, your contract most likely will stipulate that you cannot go and work for Coke while you are working for Pepsi. This is known as a conflict of interest, and it is for obvious reasons. Companies do not like it when you go and work for their rivals. So, yeah, avoid that. The other thing about picking teams is being a part of activists or groups that show up on the news. Yeah, sorry to break it to you, but nothing kills connections faster than political stances. And companies do not like being embroiled in political upheavals, especially by a freelance or contract worker that decides to pull them into a propaganda storm. Just look at Disney's live-action Snow White for a modern-day example of how that can cripple a project, and you'll get the idea. Sure, you can do it, but that doesn't mean the company cannot sue you as a result, and if you don't know law in depth, then you are much more at risk of losing a court battle against a company with a bunch of the best lawyers in the nation. So it's often better to avoid these types of topics and remain professional rather than put these thoughts out on social media or in public where they could hurt you or the client. Political rants and actions have killed more careers than anyone can count. So don't let your hard work be destroyed over a moment of weakness. A reputation can take decades to build and only seconds to destroy, so don't let that be you. Now, I'm not saying to go against your core values or that you shouldn't have a voice, not at all. I'm saying that there are extra factors that you need to consider before choosing to accept a role, and they usually describe this in the audition. So, you want to make some ground rules now to protect you and your family because you actually represent them. You represent you, your friends, your family, and your clients too. And it is your number one goal as a voice actor to protect them when able. And it's often too easy for some people to forget that in a moment of indignation. I cannot emphasize this enough. Your number one priority as a voice actor is to protect your network of people from your decisions that could harm them. And other voice actors will be expecting that same level of respect and consideration from you. So do not go and hang them out to dry all because you made a simple mistake. The third taboo genre to avoid is demographics that do not belong to you. And what do I mean by this? Well, short, sweet, and to the point, if you're doing a role of a race that doesn't belong to you or a culture that doesn't belong to you, there are probably a bunch of people out there who wouldn't appreciate that, so it's probably best to avoid those. Not only that, but can you imagine going to a Comic-Con and being praised for a role that didn't actually belong to your culture or your race? That would be awkward. Not to mention that sometimes that can kill a career. Not to say that you shouldn't ever do this. I mean, if you are doing audiobooks in particular, you're going to be expected to do all sorts of different voices, and you're probably going to have to do different accents or different people of different cultures. So in audiobooks, it's more acceptable than, say, maybe cartoon animation or live action roles. You don't want to be the person the audience hates. Tropic Thunder is a very unique exception to this rule for several reasons. But even Robert Downey Jr. had his reservations about playing that role in the movie. And he did his best to talk to his black friends about what would be appropriate for the movie and what would make them laugh. So that definitely helped. That and the fact that it was a comedy also helped. But such things are rare, and it's best not to risk it if you can just avoid it. The actor Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar Binks, for example, was hated for a very different reason. He arguably played the character Jar Jar Binks a bit too well and came off as annoying during the Star Wars movies, which the audience believed did not fit the atmosphere for the Star Wars universe. Now, I'm not so sure anyone could have really predicted the backlash Ahmed would get after he did the role, but it is a good example of how a role can ruin someone's life, and also hamper their connections and support systems in the future if delivered in a way that the audience does not approve of. And the stronger the fandom, the more backlash and critique and fame the actor can receive. Every role costs something, and it's important to weigh the risks and rewards of each role. Always remember, you have the power to negotiate and the ability to quit a project if you choose. But be very sure you know exactly what a contract states before you go and sign your life away or quit. You may have just locked yourself into a deal that you weren't prepared to meet, and you may not have the ability to get out of that. It's always good to have a lawyer who can translate the legalese so that way you can avoid this. The fourth taboo genre to avoid is fandubbing. Sorry everyone, sure it's fun, but in the professional world it can be a highly risky venture. Why? Because companies like to keep their images pristine. Think of it this way, would you like it if someone made fun of you? Some people can probably handle it and let it roll off their back, but would you feel the same if that person also took shots at your performance? Or took shots at your family, kids, parents, friends, lover? Probably not, especially if the insults weren't true at all. Companies feel the same way about their projects. Always remember that someone created that project. It's their baby, and a lot of hands helped in bringing it to fruition. You don't want to go offending them by poking fun at them, and other companies will be also looking at you and how you have been making fun of others too. They don't want somebody who pretends to be loyal and then stabs them in the back later. You have to have trust for any relationship to endure. That, and most of the time, that work that you are fandubbing is also copyrighted work. Are you using those images without their permission? If so, you can be sued. And if you have a track record of being sued for copyright infringement, guess what? You can say goodbye to any career. No one wants to have their work stolen or dragged through the mud. So you have to remember that companies view actors as wildcards. They want to hire someone who will love the project and take it on seriously, not somebody who will tarnish the final product. And they want someone who is also easy to work with. They will try to avoid people who are notoriously difficult to work with. So don't let your ego kill your future. Alrighty, that's it for the taboo genres. Let's talk a moment about your homework this month and how to improve. You probably saw from the free calendar I gave you to download that my next videos allow you to work ahead. That's good. You can do it if you can. But I also want you to focus on the 3 genres you picked and find your range. What's range, you say? It's the ability to be able to go through a whole bunch of different voices and a broad range of emotions. So range is definitely a good thing because it allows you to get many voices. But how do I get voices, Tategami, you say? Well, be sure to go to my part 2 video where I explain all about how to be able to create different voices, and I cover the 8 different aspects of creating a voice. If you want some fun materials on how to be able to create new voices, then be sure to check out my Patreon page where I have a character creation worksheet that gives you 100 different voice styles to choose from, where you can mix and match and be able to create new voices from a variety of different tones and personas. That's a potential of 10,000 voices you can create just off of this one worksheet. So if you want to take your voice acting to the next level, be sure to check out my Patreon where I got deep dives and materials now for you to jumpstart your voice acting dream. And don't forget to watch part 2 where I show you how to create 22 new voices. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in part 2 of lesson 3 of how to become a voice actor this year.